Starving under the twin moons. The twin moons of planet Shavar hung low in the sky, casting a cold blue light over the city streets. The night was silent, except for the low hum of hovercrafts and distant machinery. In the corner of a dirty alley, beside a pile of rotting trash, a small shape curled into a ball. Her name was Yanni. She was an alien child, thin, weak, and forgotten. Her skin was a pale violet color, and her eyes, once bright, were now dull and tired. She had not eaten a real meal in many days. Her bones showed through her skin. Her clothes were torn, and her feet were bare. People passed by, but no one stopped. Some looked at her in disgust. Others didn't look at all. Her kind, small, frail aliens were seen as useless. Her family had died in a fire when she was very young. Since then, she lived alone on the streets. She begged sometimes, but most times she just searched the trash for anything to eat. Tonight, she was too weak to move. Her stomach hurt badly. She hadn't even found a crumb of food all day. Her lips were cracked. Her hands shook in the cold. She tried to stay awake, but her eyes kept closing. She was afraid if she slept, she might never wake up. A large, rat-like creature sniffed near her foot. She kicked at it weakly, but the creature hissed and ran away. Even the animals on this planet were cruel. Tears rolled down Yanni's face, though she didn't make a sound. She had no energy left to cry loudly. She whispered to the stars above, "Please, someone, help me." Just then, she heard footsteps. Heavy ones, not like the soft steps of other aliens. These were slow, steady, and loud. She didn't move. She thought it was another cruel person coming to scare her away. The footsteps stopped. Yanni opened one eye. Standing in front of her was a human. She had never seen one up close. He was tall and old, with gray hair and a metal arm that glowed softly in the moonlight. His face was rough, but his eyes were kind. He didn't say anything. He simply looked at her for a moment. Then, slowly, he reached into his coat and pulled out a small packet. He knelt down and placed it gently on the ground in front of her. It was a warm food pack, real food. Steam rose from it. The smell made her stomach growl. Yanni stared at the food, then at him. She didn't trust him. Why would a stranger feed her? "Go on," the human said softly. His voice was calm and deep. "It's yours." Yanni's hands shook as she reached for the pack. She pulled it close and sniffed it. Then, like a starved animal, she tore it open and began to eat. She didn't care if it was a trap. She didn't care what he wanted. The food tasted like heaven. The human didn't speak. He just sat beside her on a box, watching her with gentle eyes. After a while, he pulled a small blanket from his bag and wrapped it around her shoulders. "You're cold," he said. Yanni looked up at him, confused. Why was he being nice? "I'm Thomas," the man said. "You don't need to be afraid." But Yanni didn't answer. She kept eating until her hands stopped shaking. Her belly was finally full. It was the first time she felt warm in many days. Suddenly, the world spun. Her head became light. Her body gave in to the exhaustion. Before she fell, Thomas caught her. "Easy, little one," he whispered. "You're safe now." He picked her up gently, holding her like she was something fragile and precious. Yanni didn't fight. She was too tired. Her arms hung limp, her head on his shoulder. As he carried her through the dark streets, no one stopped him. No one cared about a human and a starving alien girl. But above them, the twin moons continued to shine. Thomas looked up at the sky and muttered, "She reminds me of her." And with that, the man and the girl disappeared into the night, one carrying old wounds, the other holding on to her last chance. The human with gentle eyes, Yanni, woke up gasping. But it wasn't the cold, night air or the hunger that greeted her this time. It was warmth. Soft, clean sheets wrapped around her small body. A slow humming sound filled the air. The ceiling above was metal, with blinking lights and moving fans. For a second, she thought she had died and was dreaming. Then, the smell of food hit her. She sat up fast. too fast, and almost fell off the bed. Her legs were still weak. Her body ached like it had been sleeping for 100 years. She looked around with wide eyes. The room was strange. It wasn't a home. It was a ship, a real human spaceship. On a small table nearby sat a steaming bowl of soup and a chunk of warm bread. A cup of something glowing green sat beside it. She panicked. Where was she? Who brought her here? Suddenly the door hissed open. Thomas, the old human, walked in. Yanni backed away to the edge of the bed, ready to run. But there was nowhere to go. Her feet touched the cold floor. She stood weakly, like a frightened animal. Her fingers clenched, the blanket like a shield. Thomas didn't speak right away. He just looked at her. His eyes were the same as before, gentle but filled with something else too. Something heavy, like he had seen many sad things in life. I thought you'd sleep longer, he said quietly. Yanni didn't answer. Her people were told never to trust humans, but this one hadn't hurt her. Not yet. I'm not here to harm you, he said. You were freezing, starving. I couldn't leave you. He stepped aside from the door and pointed to the soup. It's still hot. Eat. Yanni didn't move. Thomas sighed, then slowly sat down in a chair on the other side of the room. He removed his metal arm and placed it on the table. It clicked, softly, like a tired old machine. He looked at her and spoke again, softer this time. You remind me of someone. Yanni didn't understand. She didn't care. Her stomach growled again. The smell of soup was too strong. Carefully, still watching him, she walked to the table and grabbed the spoon. She took one bite, then another, then faster. Tears fell down her cheeks as she ate. The food wasn't just warm, it felt like safety, like love. She had forgotten what that felt like. You don't have to thank me, Thomas said. But I want to know your name. Yanni paused. Then in a small voice she whispered, Yanni. Thomas smiled for the first time. It was a tired smile, but real. Yanni. That's a good name. She looked at him, confused. Why? Help me? She asked, voice shaky. Thomas leaned back in his chair. Because someone once helped me when I was broken, and I failed to help another long ago. I won't fail again. Yanni didn't understand everything he said, but she felt something deep in those words. She finished the food. For a while they sat in silence. The ship hummed around them, and lights blinked gently like stars. Then, suddenly, a loud beep echoed. Thomas stood quickly. He walked to a screen and tapped it. A red light blinked. A message came through in robotic voice. Galactic Patrol, Human Vessel ID 409. You are ordered to stop. A report was made of unauthorized transport of alien juvenile. Prepare for inspection. Yanni's heart dropped. Her body froze. She had heard of the patrol. They didn't care if you were a child. They sent orphaned aliens to the mines, or worse. She looked at Thomas, terrified. He stared at the screen for a long second, then slowly turned to her. Do you trust me? He asked. She didn't answer. She wanted to say no, but deep inside, a tiny voice whispered, yes. Thomas nodded anyway. Then hold on tight. He walked to the ship's controls, grabbed his metal arm, locked it back in place, and pulled a switch. The engines roared to life. The old man's ship jumped forward into the stars. Outside, patrol ships turned to chase them. Lights flashed. Sirens howled. But Yanni, for the first time in her life, wasn't scared of the noise. She was with the human with gentle eyes, and he was not going to let anyone take her again. Hunted by the law, the ship jolted hard. Alarms buzzed. Red lights flashed across the dashboard. Yanni grabbed the edge of the seat with both hands, her heart racing like a wild animal trapped in a cage. Outside the window, silver patrol ships surrounded them. Their blue lights blinked fast and robotic voices echoed through the speaker. This is Galactic Enforcement, human pilot. Power down immediately. You are carrying restricted life forms. Prepare for boarding. Thomas didn't panic. His hands moved fast, flipping switches, pulling levers. The old ship groaned like a sleeping beast woken too early. Sparks flew from the sides, and the engine roared louder. But Yanni didn't look at the ship. She looked at him. He was calm, focused. But his jaw was tight, his metal fingers shaking slightly. "They found us," Thomas muttered. "Faster than I expected." Yanni's tiny voice cracked. "Are they going to take me?" Thomas turned to her, his eyes filled with something heavy. Regret. And fire. "No. They won't." He pressed a red button. A secret panel opened from the floor beneath the pilot seat. "Hide in there," he said. "Now." Yanni stared at the dark hole. It was small, cold, like a coffin. "No," she said, shaking her head. "Don't leave me." Thomas knelt down, placed a hand on her shoulder. "I won't. But if they board us, they'll take you. Not because you did something wrong, but because they don't see your worth." Tears welled up in her eyes. Thomas looked into them and whispered, "I see it. Now hide. Please." With trembling legs, Yanni crawled into the hidden space. The panel closed. Darkness. Silence. Only the sound of her own breath. Then, footsteps. Heavy boots clanged against the ship's metal floor. A robotic voice barked, "You have violated Code 47B. Surrender the alien child now." "I don't have any child aboard," Thomas replied. "Scan if you want. You'll find nothing." Yanni held her breath. She heard beeping, devices scanning, voices arguing. "She was seen with you. We have footage." "Footage," Thomas said coldly, "is not proof of kidnapping." There was silence. Then another voice, softer but full of threat, said, "You used to be one of us, Thomas. We know how clever you are. Don't make us dig through this junk ship." Thomas laughed once. It was low and bitter. "You think you can scare me with your little uniforms and fake laws? Go ahead. Tear the ship apart. You won't find her." Yanni covered her mouth. Her heart beat so loud she was sure they could hear it. But the patrol didn't find her. They searched, argued. But Thomas was smarter. The hidden space was lined with energy blockers. Even advanced scanners couldn't see through it. After what felt like forever, the footsteps faded. The door hissed closed, and silence returned. The panel above her lifted, and Thomas reached down with his metal hand. "Come out, Yanni. You're safe. For now." She crawled out, tears on her cheeks. "You didn't give me up. I never will." Yanni hugged him tight. For a moment, the cold metal of his arm didn't feel cold at all. Later, Thomas sat, in the control chair, staring at the stars. Yanni sat beside him, wrapped in the same blanket he gave her that first night. "Why do they hate me?" she asked. "They don't hate you," Thomas replied. "They hate what you remind them of. The truth." "What truth?" "That even the smallest life has value. And they forgot that long ago." Yanni leaned her head against his shoulder. She didn't understand everything yet. But she knew one thing for sure. This human was not like the others. He didn't see her as trash. He saw her as a child who needed love. And that made him dangerous to the galaxy. Because love, in the right hands, could change everything. The journey through forbidden space. The stars outside the window were no longer peaceful. They were watching. Yanni sat on the floor beside a broken crate, holding a warm mug Thomas gave her. It glowed faintly, full of a human drink called soother tea. She didn't like the taste, but it made her feel safe, warm, alive. Thomas stood at the front of the ship, tapping buttons on the control panel. Lines of red light moved across a map. Circles blinked on the screen, enemy patrol routes, restricted sectors, and one long black line drawn with his own hand. That black line was their path. Through the Grave Run, a forgotten region of space, filled with dead satellites, broken ships, and rumors of pirates. "You've really been there before?" Yanni asked quietly. Thomas didn't turn. "Once, many years ago. It's the only way we avoid their scanners now." "Is it dangerous?" "Yes." Yanni gripped the mug tighter. The ship creaked as it moved forward. The stars outside began to change, no longer bright. They were blurry, dim, distant. Wreckage floated like frozen ghosts through the dark. One broken ship drifted by with giant holes in its sides. Its nameplate read, UNSS Courage. Yanni saw skeletons inside. Human ones. She looked away fast. Thomas noticed. Close your eyes if it's too much. I want to be brave. You already are, he said without smiling. Braver than most soldiers I've met. Suddenly a warning beep sounded. Thomas stiffened. A new light blinked on the screen. Something moving fast. Ship approaching, he said. Unregistered. No ID. That's not patrol. Yanni's voice shook. Pirates? Thomas didn't answer. But the way his hand hovered over the weapon locker said enough. The screen lit up, showing a small, fast ship tailing them. A voice crackled over the radio. Rough. Laughing. Well, if it isn't the famous old man in the rust bucket. What's in your cargo, Thomas? Heard you're hiding something sweet. Thomas muted the radio. His jaw tightened. He looked back at Yanni. They'll try to board us. I don't want to go with them, she whispered, eyes wide. You won't. He opened a hidden panel behind the cockpit and pulled out something strange. A long metal rod with glowing lines. He pressed a button. It snapped open into a staff with sharp edges. Yanni had never seen it before. What is that? Thomas didn't answer right away. He just stared at the weapon like it was a ghost from his past. It's from a time when I was someone else, he finally said. But I'll be him again. For you. The enemy ship latched onto theirs. A loud clang echoed through the walls. Then came the hiss of cutting tools trying to break in. Yanni ran to hide again. Not this time, Thomas said. Stay here. Don't move, no matter what you hear. She nodded, tears welling up. The door burst open. 3 pirates entered, one with a gas mask, another with 4 arms, and the last one, a tall alien woman with a cruel smile. Well, look at that, the woman said. Old man still fights. Thomas didn't speak. He spun the staff once and moved like lightning. The first pirate went down with a cry. The 4-armed one blocked, but Thomas struck him in the legs, then the chest. Moving faster than any old man should, Yanni gasped. The tall woman fought hard. Her blade clashed with his staff, sending sparks flying. You should have died with your fleet, she hissed. I did, Thomas growled, and knocked her out cold. When it was over, the ship was quiet again. Thomas locked the airlock and dragged the pirates into the escape pod. He launched them into space without a word. Yanni peeked from behind the seat, eyes wide in shock. You fought like a soldier. Thomas breathed heavily, wiping blood from his cheek. I was one, long ago. Then I saw too much death. Swore I'd never fight again. Yanni stepped forward. But you fought for me. He looked at her, his tired eyes soft again. I would fight the whole galaxy for you. The ship floated in silence. Outside, the stars blinked. The grave run was not over, but something had changed. Yanni no longer saw Thomas as just a kind old man. She saw him as her protector. Her fighter, her family, and she knew deep inside she would never be alone again. The old warrior awakens. He didn't want to fight again. He had buried that part of himself, deep in the dark, where it couldn't hurt anyone anymore. But blood calls to blood, and when the pirates broke into his ship to take Yanni, something inside Thomas cracked wide open. Now his hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the old rage waking up. The fight was over, but the past had returned. Thomas stood in front of a mirror inside the medbay, shirt torn, metal arm scratched, and an old scar glowing faintly across his back. One from a war most had forgotten. Behind him, Yanni watched quietly. She didn't speak. She just held a wet cloth, waiting. Come here, she whispered. He turned. She stood on her tiptoes and gently wiped a cut on his cheek. Her small hands were careful, like she thought he might break. You didn't have to fight for me, she said. Yes, I did. Why? Because no one ever fought for you before. Yanni looked down. Her tiny fingers tightened around the cloth. I don't understand humans, she whispered. Thomas chuckled, a soft sound. Most humans don't understand themselves, he sat down on the edge of the medical table. Let me tell you something, Yanni. I wasn't always like this. I used to be someone else. A soldier? He nodded. I was fast. Dangerous. I did things I'm not proud of. I followed orders. Until the day one order made me destroy an entire village filled with people like you, small, weak, helpless. He paused. I was told it was necessary, that they were a threat. But when I saw the eyes of a child looking up at me just like yours, I dropped my weapon. I walked away. And I never fought again. Yanni's voice was a whisper. Until now. Yes, Thomas said. Until you. The ship drifted through space, engines low to avoid detection. Stars moved past them like glowing rivers. But peace didn't last long. A blinking red light appeared on the console. System failure, Thomas muttered. That fight did more damage than I thought. We need to stop somewhere safe. He tapped a few keys, scanning for locations. His eyes stopped on one name, Eden 9, an abandoned human training station hidden in a dead asteroid belt. Yanni asked, Is it dangerous? No, he said. It's home. At least it used to be. They landed hours later. The station was silent. Empty. Dust floated in the air like ghosts. Old flags and broken metal walls told stories of a place that once trained elite human warriors. Thomas walked slowly, his hand brushing over rusted names on the wall. Yanni followed close, her eyes wide. You lived here? She asked. Trained here. Bled here. Survived here. She walked up to a broken statue of a human holding a child in one arm and a weapon in the other. What is this? Thomas smiled sadly. The old code. Protect the innocent. Fight the unjust, even if the whole galaxy turns against you. Yanni stared at the statue. It looks like you, she said. Thomas laughed, though his eyes were wet. Inside one of the deeper rooms, lights blinked awake. A hidden AI system turned on, detecting Thomas's presence. Welcome back, Commander. Yanni jumped. Who said that? A voice from the walls responded, cold but respectful. This facility belongs to Thomas Gray, former human war hero. Codenamed the Ghost of Cindergate. Yanni turned to Thomas with wide eyes. Ghost? He looked down. That's what they used to call me. Because I struck fast. And never left survivors. The AI continued. You have brought an unknown life form aboard. Identify. Thomas stepped forward. She's mine. My daughter now. Add her to safe list. Confirmed. Welcome, Unit Yanni. The lights turned blue, friendly. For the first time, Yanni felt like she had a place. A real place, not just inside a ship, but inside someone's heart. She walked to Thomas and said in a small voice, I'm not a soldier. I'm not strong. Thomas knelt down. You don't have to be. You just have to stay alive. And I'll handle the rest. Outside, the galaxy was still cruel. But inside that station, an old warrior had awakened, and beside him stood a girl once thrown away, now protected by a living legend. A hidden past and a greater truth. The station knew her name. That was the first strange thing. Yanni stood in the glowing chamber of Eden 9, a place older than both moons of her dead homeworld. She touched the glass wall and it pulsed under her fingers. Lights blinked awake as if recognizing her touch. Thomas narrowed his eyes. This shouldn't happen, he said softly. What do you mean? Yanni asked. This room has been sealed for years. It only opens for authorized genetic signatures. But I'm not human. That's exactly the problem. They moved deeper into the room. Screens lit up. Holograms flickered on. Ancient files, floating symbols, glowing text in a language Yanni didn't know. Then a voice spoke. Not robotic. Not cold. Soft. Gentle. Female. Child of the lost bloodline. You have returned. Yanni froze. Who is that? She whispered. Thomas looked just as stunned. It's the AI core of the station, but it never talked like this before. The voice continued. You carry the spark of the Ilyari. Long ago they ruled 3 star systems with peace and wisdom, until they were betrayed, hunted, burned to dust. Only a few survived, hidden, scattered across the stars. You are one of them. Yanni stepped back, shaking her head. No, that's not me. I was born in the dirt. I ate trash. I'm nobody. But the walls disagreed. Images appeared. Old alien queens in robes, holding crystal staffs. They had soft violet skin, like Yanni. Their eyes glowed the same way hers sometimes did in the dark. Thomas stepped closer. Yanni, this means your royal blood. No, she said. I'm a mistake. You're not, he said firmly. They just made you believe that. The AI voice grew deeper, more serious. Her blood is ancient, pure. She is the last daughter of the Ilyari High House. If she lives, the bloodline lives. If she dies, the line ends forever. Yanni whispered, but I'm just a child. You're more, the voice said, and others will come for you when they learn what lives inside your bones. Thomas turned, face cold. Then they'll have to go through me. Later in the control room, Thomas sat silently. His hand rubbed his tired face. Yanni stood by the window, watching the stars. You knew something, she said. He looked up. I had a feeling. Not this much, though. Not this big. Why, me? She asked. Thomas didn't answer right away. Then he said, I once lost my daughter. She was about your age, smart, kind. She died in a shuttle accident I should have prevented. I couldn't save her. But the moment I saw you, broken, hungry, alone, it felt like life gave me one more chance. Not to replace her, but to protect someone again. Yanni walked to him and touched his metal arm. I'm sorry, she said. He smiled weakly. I'm not anymore. Because if she hadn't gone, I wouldn't have found you. Tears burned Yanni's eyes. She quickly wiped them. Then, the alarm buzzed again. A red symbol flashed on the screen. Unidentified ships approaching, Thomas said. Multiple, big ones. The AI chimed in. They are cloaked Imperial hunters. They know she is here. Yanni's voice cracked. What do they want? They want to erase the Ilyari forever, Thomas growled. And you're the last page in their story. She looked at him, scared. Can we run? He shook his head. Not this time. He stood up slowly and opened a locked chest beside the console. Inside was his old armor, scratched, heavy, black, as midnight, a helmet with a red scar painted across the front. You're putting that on? She asked. I swore I never would, Thomas said, lifting the armor with both hands. But for you, I'll be the ghost one last time. As he suited up, the AI's voice became calm again. Child of the Ilyari, do not fear. Your protector was always meant to find you. Together you will choose what the galaxy becomes next. Outside, the ships moved closer. Inside, a small girl of forgotten royalty stood beside the deadliest human soldier in history. And together, they prepared for the storm. The girl who was chosen, the stars were watching, the galaxy was holding its breath. On the edge of space just outside the Eden 9 station, a fleet of black Imperial warships floated like shadows. They were silent, waiting. Inside the station, Yanni stood in front of a glowing control panel. Her fingers trembled. Her small frame looked lost in the wide room, but her eyes, now glowing faintly with violet light, were calm. Beside her stood Thomas, fully armored. He was no longer just the kind old man who once gave her soup in an alley. He was the ghost of Cindergate again, the man who had once broken empires. But this time, he wasn't fighting alone. 10 minutes until they breach, the AI warned. Thomas placed a blaster rifle on the table. We don't have the firepower to win this fight, not with just us. Yanni asked quietly. Then why aren't we running? Because they'll never stop chasing you. Not until you're gone. She looked down. Then, I'll go to them. Maybe if I give up. Don't say that, Thomas growled. You think your life doesn't matter? That's what they want you to believe. He placed a hand on her shoulder, metal fingers warm. You were not just found, Yanni. You were chosen. And now it's time to choose back. Suddenly, the AI's voice changed. Incoming transmission. It's open broadcast. The main screen lit up. An Imperial commander appeared. His face was sharp, pale, cruel. Human, you are protecting a dangerous relic. Turn over the girl, and we will leave you alive. Thomas laughed, a dark, low sound. Send me your best. Let's see if they can find me in the shadows. He shut off the screen. Yanni's voice shook. There's too many of them. Thomas looked at her, then said something that surprised her. Then we don't fight them with guns. What? We show them who you are. In the heart of the station, the AI activated a chamber, once used to send messages to entire systems. Thomas helped Yanni into the chamber. She stood alone in the beam of light. All she had was her voice. Speak, the AI said. The galaxy is listening. Yanni took a deep breath and spoke. Across starships, colonies, and hidden systems, screens flickered on. People from 100 species saw her. A small alien girl with violet skin, glowing eyes, and a voice that trembled, then grew strong. My name is Yanni. I was born in the streets, left to starve. People called me weak, useless, trash, but they were wrong. I am Iliari, of the blood that once brought peace, and I am still here. Not because of power, not because of luck, but because one human chose to care. If there's anyone out there who still believes in right and wrong, stand up. Not for me, for the future. The speech echoed across frequencies, and something happened. Ships began to turn. A few fighters defected from the Imperial fleet. Messages came in from rebel groups, old captains, even alien monarchs. She's the real heir. She has the ancient spark. Protect the girl. The Empire was too late. Hope had already spread. Back in the station, Thomas stood at the window, watching the enemy ships hesitate. They're scared, he said. Of me? Yanni asked. Of what you mean? Suddenly, boom, one enemy ship opened fire. The shields rattled. Thomas grabbed his weapon. Get behind me. But then, a flash of light appeared outside. Another ship, big, silver, unknown, dropped out of hyperspace. A symbol shined on its wings, the Iliari crest. A voice came through. We are survivors of the Iliari. The girl is ours, and we have returned, Yanni gasped. Others like me? Thomas smiled. You called them, with your truth. A battle started, but it wasn't like before. The Empire was losing control. The tide had turned. Inside Eden 9, Yanni stood tall beside the man who had once picked her up from the cold streets. You're not just a survivor anymore, Thomas said. You're the start of something bigger. She looked at him, eyes full of tears. Will you stay with me? Always. And so, the girl who was once starving in the alley became a symbol of unity, of love, of second chances. And the human who saved her became a legend reborn. Together, they lit a spark that would change the galaxy forever. The end.